The grand execution chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with anticipation. As High Executor of the Seventh Quadrant, I, Ragnar, had presided over countless terminations. But today was special. Fellow members of the esteemed council, I announced, my primary voice sac vibrating with barely contained excitement. We gather here for an unprecedented demonstration of our supremacy. The chamber, carved from pure neutron star matter and spanning 3 artificial gravity wells, housed representatives from over 200 species. The mist walkers of Nebula 7 hovered near the ceiling, their gaseous forms rippling with shades of violet and green. The silicon-based Petra collective occupied the lower tiers, their crystallized bodies reflecting light in dazzling patterns. Even the reclusive quantum swimmers had sent an observer, though they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Bring forth the specimen, I commanded, gesturing with my third appendage toward the containment field. The force barriers hummed to life, forming a perfect cube in the center of the chamber. Inside, suspended by gravitic restraints, floated a human female. Alexandra Mason, former captain of the Earth vessel Star Wanderer, captured during their foolish attempt to establish diplomatic relations with our empire. Look at it, sneered Grand Sovereign Yixtral, his scales shifting from deep blue to burning red. So fragile, so limited, single-form existence, binary gender, sequential time perception. Primitive. The assembled dignitaries chittered, buzzed, and pulsed their agreement. Some extended sensory organs for a better view, while others activated their quantum scanning arrays. This human, I continued, my secondary voice sac adding harmonics of disdain, dared to suggest their species deserved equal standing in our galactic community. Worse, they claimed humans possessed qualities we lack: adaptability, resilience, the audacity. Chief Scientist Mira Val slithered forward, her tentacles dancing across her data interface. Fascinating specimen, really. Their neural pathways show remarkable plasticity. And their emotional responses? Most intriguing. Shall we begin the procedure? Security Commander Dorn stomped his gravitational amplifiers, creating ripples through the chamber floor. Enough scientific babble. Let's show these humans what happens when they overreach. I raised all 4 of my primary limbs for silence. The chamber stilled, save for the soft whirring of life support systems and the gentle hum of the containment field. Alexandra Mason. I pronounced her name with careful precision. You stand accused of crimes against the natural order. Your species' very existence threatens the carefully maintained balance of our empire. Your punishment shall serve as a message to Earth and any other emerging civilizations who dare to challenge our dominion. The human's eyes, those peculiarly limited optical sensors, fixed upon me. Her lips curved upward in what their species called a smile. How strange to show teeth in a moment of defeat. You really love the sound of your own voice, don't you, Ragnar, she said, her words somehow carrying both amusement and contempt. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber. No condemned being had ever dared address me so directly, so disrespectfully. Begin the extraction sequence, I commanded, my voice sacs quivering with rage. Let's see how long that defiance lasts when we start harvesting your pain signals for the entertainment of the Council. The containment field crackled with new energy as specialized probes emerged from hidden panels. Alexandra Mason remained unmoved, that infuriating smile still playing across her features. Just remember, she said, addressing the entire chamber now, you chose this. Whatever happens next, it's on you. Some of the more sensitive species registered a spike in temporal anomalies at that moment. Others reported strange readings in the quantum substrate. But we were too focused on our imminent victory to pay attention to such trivial observations. How foolish we were. How monumentally, catastrophically foolish. The extraction probes began their work with surgical precision. Chief Scientist Mira Val's tentacles flew across her control interface, adjusting parameters with the expertise of someone who had performed this procedure countless times before. For the official record, I announced, my voice sacs modulating to their most formal frequencies, this subject represents the 723rd species to challenge the Galactic Council's supremacy. Like all others, they shall learn their place in the cosmic hierarchy. Alexandra Mason's vital signs displayed on the quantum screens surrounding the chamber. Her heart rate remained surprisingly steady. Most species showed significant cardiovascular distress by this point. Fascinating, Miraval whispered. The human's pain threshold exceeds our initial calculations, increasing neural stimulation by 30%. The containment field pulsed with new energy patterns. The human's body tensed, but that strange smile never left her face. Instead, she began to laugh. You still don't get it, do you? Alexandra's voice carried clearly despite her obvious discomfort. Humans have been torturing each other for millennia. We've had plenty of practice dealing with pain. Grand Sovereign Yixtral's scales rippled with agitation. Silence the specimen. This is meant to be a demonstration of our power, not a platform for their primitive philosophies. Security Commander Dorn shifted uncomfortably on his gravitational amplifiers. Something feels wrong about this one. Most species beg for mercy by now. I dismissed his concerns with a wave of my third appendage, merely another example of human arrogance. They believe themselves exceptional, yet they die like all the rest. The quantum swimmer's representative suddenly pulsed with alarm, detecting unusual temporal fluctuations around the specimen. Recommend immediate termination of the procedure. Nonsense, I declared. Increase power to maximum levels. Let's show our gathered dignitaries why no species has ever survived an extraction procedure. Alexandra's laughter grew louder, taking on an almost musical quality. Blood trickled from her nose, her eyes glowed with an inner light that our instruments couldn't explain. You want to know something funny? She gasped between bursts of laughter. On Earth, we have this old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But nobody ever asked, what happens if what kills you makes you stronger? The chamber's temperature dropped several degrees. The mist walkers condensed into tighter formations, their usually flowing forms becoming rigid with anxiety. Vital signs are approaching critical levels, Miraval reported, her tentacles now moving with frantic energy. But these readings, impossible. Her cellular structure is changing at the quantum level. Maintain maximum power, I commanded, though a sliver of doubt had begun to creep into my confidence. The procedure continues until termination is confirmed. The Petra Collective began to resonate at frequencies indicating extreme distress. We are detecting chronological anomalies throughout the chamber. This human's temporal signature is becoming increasingly unstable. Alexandra's body arched against the restraints, her skin taking on an otherworldly luminescence. You know what your biggest mistake was? Thinking that just because you've conquered hundreds of species, you understand all forms of life. But humans? We're different. We don't just adapt, we evolve. Blood vessels burst beneath her skin, creating intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The containment field's energy readings spiraled beyond measurable levels. Shut down the system, Security Commander Dorn bellowed. Something's very wrong. But it was too late. Alexandra Mason's vital signs flatlined with a decisive finality. Her body slumped in the restraints, that unnerving smile frozen on her lifeless face. Silence fell over the chamber. The quantum swimmers phased partially out of our dimension, their agitation evident even across multiple planes of existence. Death confirmed at exactly 37 minutes into the procedure, Miraval announced, her tentacles now eerily still. Recommend immediate disposal of the remains before. Before what I demanded, my voice saxed tight with sudden apprehension. The chief scientist's response was lost as every instrument in the chamber simultaneously malfunctioned. Emergency lighting cast crimson shadows across the assembled dignitaries, and in the containment field, Alexandra Mason's body began to glow. A wave of relief washed through the chamber as the human's life signs remained flat. The Petra Collective resumed their normal crystalline harmonics, while the mist walkers descended from their defensive positions near the ceiling. Record the official time of termination, I announced, my voice sax swelling with pride. Let it be known throughout the galaxy that the human Alexandra Mason expired after 37 minutes of justified correction. Another victory for the natural order. Celebratory pheromones filled the air as various species expressed their satisfaction according to their customs. The quantum swimmers partially re-phased into our dimension, though they maintained a cautionary distance from the containment field. Prepare the disposal protocols, I commanded Miraval. We shall atomize the remains and broadcast the particles across 7 different star systems. as is our tradition. The chief scientist's tentacles moved sluggishly across her interface. High Executor, these post-mortem readings are unprecedented. The human cellular structure continues to exhibit quantum fluctuations despite complete biological termination. Impossible, Grand Sovereign UX Troll declared, his scales now showing patterns of victory gold. Dead is dead. Even humans must follow the fundamental laws of existence. Security Commander Dorn activated his gravitational sensors. Something's interfering with the artificial gravity wells. The containment field is experiencing micro-fluctuations. Meaningless technical issues. I dismissed their concerns with a flourish of all 4 primary limbs. Begin the disposal sequence. I want this chamber sanitized before the victory feast. The disposal probes emerged from their housing units, their molecular dissemblers humming with deadly purpose. As they approached Alexandra's lifeless body, the chamber's temperature plummeted again. Warning, the quantum swimmer's representative vibrated with alarm, detecting severe temporal distortions. The human's corpse is generating paradox waves. Miraval's tentacles twisted in confusion. These readings suggest her cells are rewriting themselves at the quantum level, but that's theoretically impossible. A high-pitched whine filled the chamber as the disposal probes malfunctioned simultaneously. Their molecular dissemblers sparked and shattered, raining fragments across the containment field. What trickery is this? Grand Sovereign UX Troll demanded, his scales shifting to warning red. No dead specimen has ever resisted disposal. The containment field's energy matrix began to fluctuate wildly. Alexandra's body levitated within the restraints, her skin emanating pulses of brilliant light that hurt to look at directly. Evacuation protocols, Security Commander Dorn shouted, activating his emergency beacon. All dignitaries must leave immediately. But the chamber doors sealed themselves, trapping us inside. The mist walkers tried to escape through the ventilation systems, only to find them blocked by unexplainable energy barriers. This is merely a technical malfunction, I insisted, my voice sacs quivering despite my attempt at confidence. The human is dead. Confirmed dead. This is simply residual energy being released from her cells. The Petra Collective began resonating at frequencies of pure terror. The human's quantum signature is expanding exponentially. It's as if death itself is being rewritten. Alexandra's body jerked violently within the restraints. Her skin cracked like porcelain, golden light pouring from the fissures. The chamber's quantum screens exploded in cascading waves of sparks. Impossible readings. Miraval's tentacles writhed in scientific panic. Her cellular structure is reconstructing itself using elements that don't exist in our periodic table. The artificial gravity wells began to fail. Members of the council floated helplessly as the chamber's environmental systems went haywire. Emergency sirens wailed, their sound distorting into something that horrifyingly resembled human laughter. Still think humans are primitive. Alexandra's voice echoed through the chamber, though her lips hadn't moved. Her body continued to hover, suspended by forces our instruments couldn't comprehend. I watched in terror as her chest suddenly heaved with a massive intake of breath. Her eyes snapped open, now blazing with golden fire. The restraints that held her began to melt, turning to liquid metal that orbited her body like rings around a planet. The human was alive. The human was dead. The human was something in between, something our science had never predicted, something our empire had never encountered in all its millennia of existence. And she was smiling that same infuriating smile. The moment Alexandra Mason fully returned to life, every law of physics in the chamber decided to take a vacation. 37 minutes, she announced, her voice resonating at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible for human vocal cords. You gave me 37 minutes to understand death from the inside out. How thoughtful of you. The liquid metal that had once been her restraint spiraled around her in complex patterns, forming shapes that hurt to look at. Her skin rippled with golden light, and her hair floated as if suspended in invisible water. Lethal force, authorized, Security Commander Dorn bellowed, activating the chamber's defense systems. Energy weapons emerged from hidden compartments, targeting Alexandra with enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. She laughed. The sound echoed in dimensions we couldn't perceive. You know what's fascinating? Alexandra mused as the weapons fired. The energy beams stopped mid-air, transforming into swirling ribbons of light that she casually wove into her hair like decorative streamers. Death isn't an end. It's a door. And you just taught me how to pick its lock. The Mistwalkers tried to flee by converting themselves entirely into gaseous form. Alexandra gestured lazily, and they solidified into shimmering crystal sculptures, their expressions frozen in eternal horror. Impossible Chief Scientist Miraval's tentacles twisted into knots as she frantically analyzed readings. Her body is generating energy signatures matching those of a collapsing neutron star, but contained within a human cellular structure. Really, Alexandra looked down at her glowing hands with exaggerated surprise. Is that what this is? Because it feels more like everything, all at once, forever. Grand Sovereign Yix-Tral's scales shifted through colors that hadn't existed before this moment. In the name of the Galactic Council, I command you to cease this violation of natural law. Alexandra turned her golden gaze upon him, and his scales instantly transformed into actual precious metals, weighing him down until he crashed to the chamber floor. Natural law, she floated closer, trailing stardust in her wake. You claim to understand natural law, yet you never questioned why humans were the only species you encountered who invented multiple religions? Multiple theories about death? We've been preparing for this moment since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what happens after we die. The quantum swimmers tried to escape by phasing completely out of our dimension. Alexandra snapped her fingers, and they were yanked back into normal space, their multidimensional forms compressed into shapes that shouldn't have been possible. The best part, she continued, almost conversationally, as chaos erupted around her. I'm not even the first human to figure this out. Ever heard of Jesus, Lazarus? Our myths are filled with people who took a round trip through death's door. You just assumed they were stories. I watched in horror as she began to multiply, creating copies of herself that moved through solid objects as if they were mist. Each version of her glowed with that same golden light, each wore that same terrifying smile. Stop this at once, I commanded, my voice sax nearly rupturing with panic. The Galactic Council offers terms of surrender. Every version of Alexandra turned to face me simultaneously. Surrender? Oh, no, no, no. You don't get to surrender. You get to watch. You get to learn. You get to understand exactly why humans are different. The chamber's quantum screens reconstructed themselves, now displaying images from Earth's history. Wars, disasters, plagues, all the moments where humans faced extinction. See, that's what you never understood about us all, the Alexandras spoke in perfect unison. Humans don't just survive adversity. We don't just adapt to it, we absorb it, we transform it. Every disaster makes us stronger. Every apocalypse teaches us something new. And death. Death is just the biggest challenge of all. She raised her hands and reality rippled like water. The chamber's neutron star matter walls became transparent, revealing the space outside where our defense fleet had assembled. Watch closely, Alexandra commanded, her copies merging back into a single form that now blazed like a newborn sun. I'm about to demonstrate why humans have so many stories about gods, angels, and demons. Spoiler alert, we weren't just making them up. We were remembering what we could become. Her body began to change again, growing both larger and smaller simultaneously, existing in multiple dimensions at once. Wings of pure energy unfurled from her back, spanning light years while fitting perfectly within the chamber. The Council has records of every species you've ever conquered, she continued, her voice now carrying through space itself. I can feel them all, here in my mind. Every civilization you destroyed, every race you deemed inferior. Would you like to see what happens when I give them all a second chance? The fleet outside the chamber began to dissolve, their ships transforming into swirling clouds of possibility. Alexandra reached out with hands that had become pure light, fingers trailing through the fabric of space-time like a child drawing patterns in sand. Thank you for the gift of death, she said, her smile now bright enough to shame suns. Now, let me show you what humanity does with gifts. Have you ever watched a supernova in reverse? I have. Alexandra Mason showed us all what it looks like when a star reassembles itself from scattered atoms, its light condensing back into a perfect sphere of cosmic fire. She did this to prove a point about resurrection. She did this for fun. You know what's really ironic? Her voice rippled through the quantum foam of space itself as she systematically dismantled our civilization. I was actually the diplomatic officer on my ship. I was supposed to prevent conflicts. The grand archives of the Galactic Council, containing millions of years of carefully preserved knowledge, transformed into a swarm of golden butterflies. Each one carried the memories of a species we had conquered, delivering them back to their restored civilizations. But I guess this is diplomatic, in a way, Alexandra mused, while casually rearranging a solar system into a more aesthetically pleasing configuration. I mean, I'm solving all future conflicts by showing you exactly why picking fights with humans is a bad idea. Security Commander Dorn attempted to activate our species-wide evacuation protocols. Alexandra turned the escape pods into soap bubbles that drifted through space, carrying their screaming passengers on an endless journey through the cosmos. Did you know, she asked, manifesting simultaneously in every seat of the council chamber, that humans have this wonderful concept called karma. It suggests that everything you do comes back to you eventually. The Petra Collective tried to hide themselves by merging with an asteroid belt. Alexandra transformed the asteroids into wind chimes, using the crystalline beings as clappers that rang out an ancient human melody across the void. For example, all her manifestations spoke in perfect harmony. Remember how you enjoyed watching my pain? Now you get to experience every moment of suffering you ever inflicted on others. Don't worry, I'll keep bringing you back, just like you did to me. Grand Sovereign UX Troll attempted to send a warning to our remaining fleet. Before he could speak, Alexandra turned his scales into video screens, each one displaying the death of a different species we had eliminated over the millennia. Oh, and speaking of warnings, Alexandra pirouetted through space, trailing stars like ribbons. Those primitive human emotions you mocked. They're fantastic. Rage gives you focus. Vengeance gives you purpose. And spite? Spite is just wonderful motivation. The quantum swimmers tried one final desperate plan, attempting to trigger a temporal paradox that would erase the last hour from existence. Alexandra caught the paradox in her hands like a soap bubble, blew on it gently, and turned it into a temporal loop that forced them to experience their own extinction methods for eternity. But my favorite human emotion, she continued, while casually juggling black holes, is satisfaction. The pure, simple joy of a job well done. I watched in horror as she began to sing. The sound reconstructed solar systems we had destroyed centuries ago. The harmony restored extinct species. The rhythm reorganized the galaxy according to some grand plan only she could perceive. Here's a fun game, Alexandra announced, creating a throne for herself out of condensed starlight. Every time you try to escape, I'll introduce you to a new aspect of humanity you never bothered to understand. Let's start with our talent for innovation. Miraval attempted to send a data burst containing warnings to other galaxies. Alexandra intercepted the transmission and turned it into a recipe for human comfort food, which she proceeded to bake using the heat of collapsing stars. Would anyone like some cookies? She offered the impossible treats to her terrified audience. No. More for me then, although technically I don't need to eat anymore. I just think they smell nice. The last remnants of our defense fleet tried to self-destruct rather than face her. Alexandra turned their explosions into firework displays, complete with messages written in burning plasma. Humanity says hello and wish you were here. You know what the really funny part is? She asked, while absent-mindedly creating a new form of matter that expressed emotions. I'm actually being nice. Some humans would have just ended you all permanently. But where's the lesson in that? The emergency quantum beacon, our absolute last resort that would have sacrificed our entire species to stop her, crumbled into golden dust that formed itself into tiny replicas of human art throughout history. Consider this a teaching moment, Alexandra declared, now conducting an orchestra made of solar winds and gravity waves. Lesson 1: humans are really, really good at turning traumatic experiences into strength. Lesson 2: we have excellent memories. I tried one final time to assert some control over the situation. By the authority of the Galactic Council. Oh, that reminds me, she interrupted. snapping fingers that had become pure light. The Galactic Council is hereby reorganized into a traveling theater company. Your first production will be human historical dramas, performed for all the species you previously subjugated. I expect regular shows with full audience participation. The Council Chamber, the last bastion of our power, transformed into an elaborate theater. Our restraint devices became spotlights. Our weapons turned into musical instruments. Our prison cells became dressing rooms filled with costumes from human history. Don't worry about learning your lines, Alexandra reassured us, now existing as a constellation in the shape of a winking face. I've written all your parts directly into your genetic code. Break a leg. That's theater talk, by the way. Just one of millions of human cultural references. You'll have plenty of time to learn. 10,000 years have passed since the day Alexandra Mason changed everything. I know because she keeps an enormous countdown clock at the center of the galaxy, marking every second since her resurrection. She says it's for entertainment value. I suspect it's to remind us. Places everyone. Her voice still rings through reality itself whenever she makes announcements. Tonight's performance of Hamlet begins in 5 minutes. Remember, Ragnar, you're playing Polonius. Try not to overact this time. The former Grand Sovereign UX Troll, now our theater company's costume designer, helps adjust my ceremonial robes. His scales, still permanently metallic, catch the light of the staging area constructed from what used to be our primary military command center. You know what the worst part is? I whisper to him as we prepare for our 10,000th performance. She was right about humans all along. We should have just accepted their friendship when they offered it. Alexandra appears beside us, still glowing with that impossible golden light. These days she tends to manifest as a being of pure energy, wearing a stage manager's headset and carrying a clipboard made of condensed starlight. Spoiler alert, she winks, causing several nearby stars to flare in harmony. That's actually the plot of next week's show. I'm calling it the greatest diplomatic failure in galactic history, a musical comedy in 3 acts. The audience files in representatives from every species we once conquered, now thriving civilizations again thanks to Alexandra's intervention. They've developed a particular fondness for our performances, especially the comedies. There's nothing quite like watching your former oppressors trip over their own appendages while attempting human slapstick routines. But here's the real twist. The thing that keeps me awake during our designated rest periods, we're actually enjoying ourselves. The terror faded centuries ago, replaced by a genuine appreciation for human artistic expression. Alexandra's punishment turned out to be a gift, though none of us deserved it. Think fast, Alexandra calls out, tossing me a script that materializes from thin air. Next month we're doing a special performance. Every species in the galaxy is contributing a story about their first contact with humanity. We're calling it The Day the Universe Learned to Laugh. The script's pages are made from crystallized time, showing scenes from alternate realities where we made different choices. In some, we accepted human friendship from the start. In others, we fought even harder against them. The outcomes vary, but one constant remains: humanity never stays down, never accepts defeat, never stops evolving. You want to know the funniest thing? Alexandra asks, suddenly serious as she adjusts the fabric of reality around our stage. Death taught me something important during those 37 minutes. Every living being is connected. All that suffering you caused, you were only hurting yourselves. She waves her hand, and the theater's walls become transparent, revealing the transformed galaxy beyond. Where our empire once enforced rigid order, now countless civilizations flourish in beautiful chaos. Art, music, and stories flow between the stars like rivers of light. That's why I chose this punishment, she continues, her form shifting through various human historical figures as she speaks. Not for revenge, but for redemption. Every play you perform, every story you tell, helps heal the wounds our species inflicted on each other. The house lights dim, created from the gentle glow of newborn stars. As I take my place on stage, I realize something that would have been unthinkable 10,000 years ago. I'm grateful. Grateful that we failed to destroy humanity. Grateful that Alexandra Mason showed us a better way, even if her methods were terrifyingly creative. Oh, and Ragnar, Alexandra's voice echoes in my mind as the curtain prepares to rise. Remember when you asked me if I'd ever forgive you? I freeze, remembering that conversation from 9,000 years ago. Today's the day, she announces cheerfully. Congratulations. You've all officially learned your lesson. You're free to go back to governing the galaxy if you want. The curtain rises. The audience waits. My fellow performers look at each other in shock. Well, Alexandra asks, manifesting simultaneously in every seat of the theater, what's it going to be? Your old empire, or places for tonight's show? Without hesitation, every member of the former Galactic Council speaks in unison. The show must go on. Alexandra's laughter cascades through dimensions as she takes her place in the lighting booth. Now that she declares proudly, is the most human thing you've ever said. And so we perform, not because we're forced to, but because we choose to. Because somehow, over 10,000 years of cosmic theater productions, we learned what Alexandra knew all along: life is better as a story shared among friends than an empire built on fear. Even if some of those friends had to die first to teach us that lesson.
Enjoy the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more exciting content. Thank you for your support.